Hello, everyone. My name is Bridget Watcher. I am the host of the Watcher B. Let me try this again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my podcast, if you're listening to it that way. This is Bridget of the Watcher B podcast interview series. Today, I have the great honor of interviewing a really good friend of mine, James Erskine. James is a mega connector in Accra, someone I've gotten to know over the last few years while I was there. So James, I would allow you to introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about, kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about.
All right. Thank you so much, Rita, for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. My name is James Erskine. Basically, I have a passion for communications. And that's how come I ended up at the Stomach Incubator as head of programs and partnerships. I love to leverage on my network and in creating solutions for people and organizations. So that's basically me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I feel like it's very humble, though. Like, I should big you up a little bit more. So James goes by, his alias is the ecosystem connector. That's what you told me the last time.
That is it.
There's not someone in Accra, if you're trying to move down there, if you're in business there and you want to work with brands, organizations, young people, he's definitely the one to know. And I also want to add that you're also really young. Like you're just finishing your national service, and basically, which is something you do, a service you pay to the country after you're done with university, and you just completed that. So that's huge. How do you feel?
Well, it's been a long ride. It's been a long ride. Starting somewhere mid last year, but I started a bit early. Till now, it's been a great experience, especially from where I got to work at Stanbic. A lot of opportunities, a lot of good time.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Okay, so then let's set the stage for what we're going to talk about and why I wanted you in particular to talk about it. So I wanted to have a conversation about what African youth need at this time. And like I said, I could not think of a better person to talk to about this, because you are a young person, but more importantly, you're someone who's connected to a lot of people in the ecosystem. So I think that allows you to bring great perspective into this conversation. So let's start this way. What do you think is going on generally for Ghanaian youth, right? Sure, we want to talk about African youth, but we want to also be very specific about what you know, which is our local context. What do you think is going on?
Well, there's a lot of mixed feelings down here. Ghanaian youth are either at home, those in school are at home, those who are doing national service are either working from home or running rotations at work. So there's a lot of mixed feelings on when we can return back to what used to be as termed as normal. We also try and find ways to adapt to the new normal. Virtual conferencing, virtual intentions, virtual work for those who are working with organizations like Stanbic. Most of us are working from home. So basically, I think there's a lot of mixed feelings, and we're still hopeful.
That's great. So let me just say this. When we talk about African youth, for you, how do you define that? I just want to make sure you and I are even on the same page. How would you define an African youth? Is there a range that you think about when you think about that?
People limit African youth to the age range, but I think anyone who's youthful at heart can be termed as an African youth. Basically,
yeah.
I understand either in the Pan-African Parliament or even in Parliament, the youngest person's 24. They must be in 25 this year. So I think anyone who's youthful at heart and is ready, is optimistic and about the future is an African youth. Okay. I don't really limit it to an age.
For me, when I'm thinking about this, I know the AU defines African youth very broadly. From like post-teenage years to 35, which to me is crazy. All the way up to 35 is useful, but I mean, it's a blessing. So I guess those two perspectives will help us talk about, what you think are some of the challenges now, right? So sure, we can think about it in terms of anyone who's optimistic and youthful, but looking specifically at a demographic of, let's bring it from post, middle
15.
school. Yeah, so 15 to around 30. What do you think are the challenges for that demographic around this time?
So like I said before, so we have a lot of schools, high school, pre-tertiary and tertiary, all at home trying to figure out virtual learning and e-learning. We also have young working professionals who might fit between the age range of 25 to 30 or 20 to 30, either running shifts at work or having to work from home, depending on your company's capacity to embrace virtual remote learning, remote working. Sorry.
From what I'm hearing you say, even though Accra has gone back to normal, quote unquote, the lockdown has been lifted, there's still generally a change in the working environments that people find themselves in.
That's true. That's true. I wouldn't consider them as non-essential workers, but and a bit to mitigate the crisis, you still have staff working from home, jumping on a lot of Zoom calls and Skype calls, trying to get things done.
Right. So here we are, we have a mix of, understanding the education context for young people and also the professional context, right? If people are at work, it's generally, either remote working or not having work at all. So those are some pretty difficult circumstances. But I'm sure, when I was in Ghana, I saw so much ingenuity from African youth as well. Are there any interesting kind of trends or developments you're seeing among, Ghanaian youth at this time?
We actually noticing the creativity and innovation among them, Kenyan African youth. Most of the interventions towards the crisis have come from African youth or even Ghanaian youth with contactless hand washing machines and a couple of creative stuff been put together by African youth. So this crisis has actually been a catalyst for the innovation among African youth, basically.
That's really key. Do you think it was there and now perhaps it's being brought to the forefront, or perhaps now it's being more encouraged, or do you think like it's just a new burst overall, or maybe a bit of both?
I think African youth and Ghanaian youth specifically have always been innovative. Name the likes of Cecil Nutakor from eCampus, or I've forgotten the name of the gentleman from Grade Mates. But we've always been innovative and creative. So I think it's just brought us to the fore with respect to the crisis. And I hope it stays there, because a lot of young people need to have their innovations put out there.
Right. I think last we spoke, you also mentioned this idea of there being African youth now turning, or Ghanaian youth now turning to platforms to use their voices or amplify their voices more. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, you have a lot of African youth resort into virtual platforms, for example, the likes of LinkedIn Learning to acquire more skills. We've seen that the likes of Harvard and a couple of Ivy League schools have opened up their MOCs to make it more free and accessible. So we've seen a lot more Africans resort to that. We've also seen more campaigns, for example, with respect to online learning, which favors a huge segment of the youth, but unfortunately doesn't favor youth who are in marginalized areas. So we've seen them put together online campaigns and even granting media interviews on what it feels like to have to participate in online learning or online exams, which may not favor them.
Yeah, so I'd love for you to share those with me so that I can put them in my description links, because I think that's very interesting. When we come to the education side and even on the professional side, some of the resources that would make virtual learning, virtual work possible don't exist in certain marginalized communities, right? And what you just talked about was this idea of people rallying and using their voices through social media or through various platforms to draw attention to that issue. Do you see any creative ways that's being addressed?
No, at the moment. The powers that be are still trying to figure out a way to make online learning inclusive. It wasn't really a priority. So I think it's taking perspective from the stakeholders in the ecosystem and finding a way to make the platforms more accessible and inclusive.
That's really powerful. I mean, I can think of when I was in Accra, there was a team, I think he was Tanzanian, I don't remember where he was from, or Nigerian, and a Sri Lankan guy, I don't know if you know them, who came together to create this platform that would allow people to basically stream learning content without using their data or using very, very minimal data or something like that. So those are some of the solutions I think will continue to come to the fore.
There's also the likes of Cecil Nwako from eCampus, who's making more content. He's making content accessible online. So when students don't have to go through textbooks or to actually access or prepare for the exams. Everything has migrated online. You have the past questions of high schools migrated to an online platform. So I think that's also one of the most remarkable innovations in the edtech space I'm seeing.
That's really incredible. Okay, so let's kind of round out by talking about, what happens next, right? So we've seen that there's this huge ingenuity, but there are also these challenges. So what do you think African youth need at this time, right? I'm thinking about my audience who are primarily in the diaspora. What ways do you think they can continue to support the African cause through African youth at this time?
Well, I think even before the crisis, African youth have always been in need of access to opportunities and access to mentorship, because you see remarkable ideas or innovative ideas or the resilience and passion to do something, but there isn't really the access to opportunity. I have a lot of people, colleagues and juniors reaching out to me, oh, do I know of any virtual internship or opportunity? So I think this African youth really need a huge access to opportunities and mentorship platforms.
How do you think the African diaspora specifically can respond to this need?
Well, I think the likes of the future of Ghana and yourself and the global shapers community probably in the diaspora could form unions whereby they offer or reach out to the likes of myself or Forster, who runs hackathons for tertiary students, to widen the access to opportunities. So I think collaboration is very key, because people like myself and maybe Foster and other people are on the ground and have networks or database of young people who really need the opportunities. So I think collaboration is key in widening the access to opportunities.
Well, thank you so much, James. Like, that's really powerful, because I think, at this time when the data suggests that we're going to see kind of minimal or decrease in remittances or perhaps capital to the continent, what you're saying is perhaps if it's not money that you can contribute, what you can contribute would be your time, the opportunity for people to leverage you as a network to then get opportunities for themselves. So that's really, really powerful. Thank you so much, James, for your time. Is there anything you want to add in terms of your work, ways we can support you, or just generally about this topic before we close?
Well, I'll just like to re-emphasize on the access opportunities, that if anyone in the diaspora who is looking for a virtual intern or is looking to create something that would widen the access to mentorship and opportunities to African youth, they can get in touch and we can definitely collaborate and do something to help the youth down here.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, James. I really appreciate it. This has been great.